You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 75. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there and welcome. We're so excited to have you here today. So today on this episode, we are going to be continuing our series on how to avoid teacher burnout. This is such an important skill to have as a teacher to build your resiliency because, guys, I don't know if you know this, but teaching can be hard.
Yeah.
So our goal with this 5-part series is to give you really actionable tips that are going to help you to create habits to help you avoid burnout this year and have your best year ever. And on this episode, we're going to be talking specifically about how being mindful of your thoughts can totally change your experience in the classroom. But before we get started, we're so excited to share this week's sponsor with you. This is a brand that we absolutely love, aligns with our values, and we're so excited to recommend to you. And it's Free Label. Josiane, why do we love Free Label so much?
There are a million reasons. They are ethical. They are a Canadian brand, which we love. And one thing we adore is that they fit all body types. Like you and I have completely different bodies and Free Label looks good on both of us. And there's quite a few pieces that we both own and they look awesome on both of us. Not to brag, but
yes, I love their commitment to representing all body types and really celebrating the female body in ways that just you put on these clothes and you feel so confident in your skin. They're doing an amazing job at that.
I love it. I love it. This August, they are rolling out their fall collection, which is going to be super nice. And you should check it out.
Definitely. Go to educalm.com/free label. So that's educalm, educalme.com/free label.
All right, let's get into the show. Let's talk about thoughts.
Yes. So before we get into it, I want to do a quick recap of what we learned on last week's episode, which was episode number 74. We learned all about how habits are created. So I learned this model from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. Such a great read. Highly recommend it.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Absolutely. But the habit loop goes like this. Recap. You have the cue, you have the craving, you have the response, and then you have the reward. For every single habit that you do, you're always running through these things. Now, on last week's episode, we talked about how these habits create, or how this habit loop helps us to create good habits, and then how we can use the habit loop to kind of undo some bad habits.
This will all help us to prevent burnout.
Absolutely. Now, one thing that is so huge for our state of being and how we feel is actually the thoughts that are happening in our mind. Because when we think a thought, it creates an emotion in our body. Like if you're thinking, wow, I love this ice cream, then you're feeling good, right? If you're thinking, oh, I don't want to wake up this morning, I don't want to go to work, this is going to be such a tough day, you're pumping negative emotions into your body.
And what's crazy is that we often don't even notice the thoughts that we're having. It's so habitual that we don't even know we're thinking these thoughts.
Exactly. And you just said it's so habitual. It actually is. Our brain is on a habit loop. So we're in a certain situation, it makes us feel a certain way, and then boom, we get into that thought cycle that our brain is just used to having. So what's super important about our thoughts is actually to start becoming aware of the thoughts that we're having. So Josiane, how would you recommend that we can start paying attention to our thoughts? Because that doesn't come naturally.
It's with a mindfulness practice. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. So can you walk me through, like, if I want to start paying attention to my thoughts and I'm doing this in a mindfulness practice, what is that, like, what am I actually doing?
If I wanted to just pay attention to my thoughts, which is how I started my mindfulness meditation practice, I just put a timer on for 5 minutes and I just notice my thoughts. I try not to get lost in them and just noticing them without judging them, without trying to change them. That in itself is not easy, but the better you get at it, the better you get at it, right?
Yeah, with
to
practice.
just notice with lots and lots and lots of practice.
Exactly.
And then another way that we can do this is then by writing down our thoughts. Just to notice, like, what am I really thinking? Once you see it on paper, it really kind of opens up your eyes.
Yeah, because we tend to get in this, like we said, habits of thought. You don't even notice you're thinking those thoughts. And once you write it down on paper, you're like, wow, why am I thinking that about myself? Yeah. Or like, that's not a nice thing to be repeating in my mind to myself.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say this out loud. Why am I thinking this thought in my head?
Exactly. But if you don't sit down and pay attention to those thoughts, you never know, so you can never change them. So I love that. Sitting down, setting a timer for 5 minutes, just noticing the thoughts. Now, in my mindfulness practice, one thing that I notice pretty quickly is like, my thoughts are so repetitive.
Mostly useless also. Yeah. Mine anyway.
Yeah. Like you think that the thoughts that are going through your mind would be like quite varied, but it's really a loop. It's like a loop of the same thoughts and same ideas and same worries and same frustrations that come up.
But you can't know that until you sit with your thoughts for a while.
Exactly. So step 1 is definitely sitting down and starting to develop this skill of noticing what's going on in your mind. So now the next step is bringing that into your life. So noticing, when you're in the classroom or when you're driving to work or when you're driving home, what are the thoughts now that are cycling through your mind? And how are those thoughts making you feel? Oftentimes the thoughts that we are having go towards the negative and don't make us feel great. And don't judge yourself about that. That is totally natural. Our brain is made to be searching for problems.
It's on survival mode.
Exactly. It's trying to avoid negative outcomes. So it's always searching for something bad that could happen so that we can try to avoid it.
And to keep yourself safe.
Yes, exactly. So it's not bad that your brain does that. It's super important for our evolution and our adaptation, but we can start changing that.
So we talked about how we can get to know our thoughts. Now I'm wondering, how do we create new thought habits?
Yes.
So tell me about that.
So we're going to use this model that we used in the last episode again and look at this as a habit loop. So let's get into an example. I think it'll be easiest to teach it if we're using an example.
Of course.
So one that I think all teachers can relate to, you're teaching a lesson in front of the class and you have a few students that are talking, not paying attention, and disturbing those around them. Okay?
Yep.
So
we all know that one way too well.
We do. So that is the cue. That is the situation you're in that tells your brain, oh, something's happening. And then we have to start creating a habit loop. So the cue is your students are not paying attention and the emotion that you kind of immediately feel.
Frustration. For sure.
Yeah.
Or like impatience kind of.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So the first step is recognizing that, like, oh, this is the cue. This emotion, this situation is now cueing my brain to do something, to get on that same roller coaster ride that it normally gets on. So then pay attention. What is now the craving? So we have the cue, then the craving. What's the craving now? You're feeling frustrated. You're craving feeling better. You're craving not feeling that frustration. Now, let's just name how we feel in that situation when we're frustrated because of someone else's actions. We kind of feel like, well, there's nothing I can do about this. We feel like we no longer have control. And that's so hard as a teacher, right?
Oh, so hard. All you want as a teacher is like control like of the classroom. You want that classroom management to be on par, right?
Exactly. So the cue is the frustration, and then our craving is to gain that control back, is to feel like we have everything in order again. So the response now is going to be the thought that we have. So now what are you thinking? Now, well, let's be super honest here. It's either a judgment of those students or it's a judgment of yourself. So you start thinking thoughts like
what's wrong with him?
Yeah.
Or
her or
yeah.
them or the group. Like what don't they value their education, or doesn't it, it's bad that they're disturbing others,
or it's like, I'm a bad teacher
and I
don't have control. Why can't I do this?
Exactly. Or like
negative self-talk.
Exactly. So now it's so interesting because we get in the habits of having same types of thoughts in these situations. So I invite you guys to start paying attention. Like when you're feeling frustrated, what are the thoughts that are going on in your mind? Do you tend to blame the students? Do you tend to blame yourself? And there's no right or wrong here. We are just trying to become aware of our habits of thinking, because we can only start changing them once we're aware of them. And it's so natural and human to judge, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, don't judge yourself for judging.
Yeah. Then we're just judging on top of judging on top of judging.
Not good. It's not good.
So the cue is the frustration. The craving is to gain back control, to shift your feeling out of frustration and into control. The response is the thought that you're having. And then the reward is, well, you feel a little bit better because you've judged the situation in a way that helps you to shift from just feeling frustrated to, oh, now I have something to blame. Right? So you feel a little bit more in control.
Or you're able to put it on somebody else.
Yes.
What's the word I'm looking for? Like it's somebody else's fault.
Yes.
It's not me, it's them.
Yes, exactly.
Which makes us feel better. It's not necessarily a good thing, but it does make us feel better.
Yeah. So it accomplishes the craving of feeling differently about the situation. It gives you a little bit of control. Now, the problem is, just because you feel more in control, it doesn't mean that you actually feel better or more positive about the situation. So let's look at the same situation and see how we can start, once we've figured out what those thoughts we're having are, how can we start to change them? So step one is you have to start really paying attention to that cue. So what is it that starts making you feel that negative emotion? And what is that thought that you continually have? So once you've named that and noticed it, the next time you're in that situation where you feel frustrated, so your students are talking, they're not paying attention, they're disturbing, you start feeling frustrated and you go, oh, I feel frustration. Okay, I know that I want to feel more in control. That's the craving. What is a new response I can take? And so this is where we start thinking a new thought that helps us to feel better, and that is more solution-based. So rather than getting stuck in the problem, oh, they're always talking, they're always disturbing, oh, this is driving me crazy. Yeah. What's a solution?
I just also want to note that, like, have compassion with yourself. Don't judge yourself, because this is a long process to even start catching yourself in your thoughts. That took me a long time, and I had a dedicated mindfulness practice for a very long time before I could start catching myself in my negative thoughts in the moment.
Yes.
So I think that's an important point to make.
Absolutely. And so, reminder, keep up with that meditation or that mindfulness meditation practice where your whole goal is just to pay attention to your thoughts, to get to know your mind better. Once you get to know it better, you can start making changes. So what's a better feeling thought? Instead of thinking, oh, these are bad kids or I'm a bad teacher, what if we look at it as, oh, wow, they're struggling with paying attention?
Insert the compassion piece there.
Yes.
Yes.
And when we look at it as, oh, this student is struggling to meet expectations, we can have compassion for them. And then we start looking for solutions rather than just dwelling in the problem. Rather than just focusing on what's going wrong, we start thinking, okay, what's a system we can put in place to support this student because they're struggling to listen when I'm teaching? And already, like I can actually, as I'm thinking through this in my mind, I feel better in my body.
Your body's not as tense.
Yeah. You're like, oh, okay, I can come up with a solution. Like us as teachers, we're very good at solving problems.
Yeah,
so
we do it like 700 times a day.
Exactly. So now the reward here, so reminder, it goes cue, craving, response, reward. So our response is a better feeling thought, something that helps us to look for more solutions. The reward is you feel better. Now, as we're trying to create new habits of thinking, our brain is always looking for what serves us. So if in the past your old habit of thinking when you're feeling frustrated was thinking negative thoughts that shift the frustration to something else, but it's still a negative feeling. If we start practicing changing our thought so that we feel better, our brain's going to start to recognize like, oh, this is a better option. This is a better option to think this thought rather than that old thought. It's not going to happen overnight. It's really something that you'll have to work at and catch yourself in and notice and practice. And it's all a practice. It's all a practice. And you'll never be perfect at it, but your brain is going to start choosing that better feeling thought automatically over time.
And once we've chosen that better feeling thought, not only will we feel better, but then we're able to make better decisions for ourselves. We can be more proactive. It's all around good for both the students and for the teacher in this specific situation that we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. So now that we've created a better feeling thought, we're going to feel a better emotion. And now we have a new perspective. The perspective is now solution-based rather than problem-based. We're looking at this issue from a lens of, this is something that can be solved, rather than, this is so tough. I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of the school year.
This student again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So really practicing noticing your habits of thoughts and using this habit loop model to kind of dissect the thoughts that you're having and replace them with new ones is going to help you to avoid burnout, because really our thoughts are at the base. Our thoughts are what create our emotions. Our emotions are what create our perspective. Our perspective is what creates our actions and how we feel in the world. So if we can really get to the root of it at those thoughts, we are really going to make big changes.
Honestly, I think that's what turned everything around for me when I was facing burnout. Mm-hmm. It's that I started paying attention to my thoughts, and I worked so hard to change my thoughts. And that was the transformation. That was really the beginning of it for me. And that was the thing that kept me from going on stress leave. I
totally agree. My biggest thing was driving to work. Like I would do my mindfulness practice in the morning, and then driving to work in the morning at a 30-minute drive, I would catch myself worrying about the day. And I'm worrying. Okay, let's think a better feeling thought. Let's imagine a better outcome. Let's think of all the things that could go right instead of could go wrong. And just continually practicing, I'm thinking negative again. Okay, thinking, just over and over and over and over for the whole drive.
And I mean, we still have to have those negative thoughts sometimes, mm-hmm. but it's just when we get caught into the loop. Yeah. That's where it's dangerous, I would say.
Yeah. And that's when our brain is thinking the thought without us noticing it, which means that it's creating negative emotion, and we start not even realizing why we're feeling bad. And we just get stuck in feeling bad a lot.
Yeah.
And that's when we really get into that burnout territory.
This is something that we can also teach our students, and we should teach this to our students, because we're going to not save them, we're going to gift them this amazing skill of knowing what thoughts they're having, so that they can learn now instead of having to learn it at, 30 years old like we did.
Yeah. And they'll have a lot less bad habits of thinking to undo as an adult and start purposely creating positive habits of thinking as a child, which is, man, what a gift.
So good. We actually, in EduCalm Classroom, our online mindfulness program, we have a full unit dedicated to this. It's called Self-Awareness and Emotions. And the kids love that one. It's one of the favorites for sure.
Yeah, they learn how their thoughts create their emotions, and they actually go through these guided mindfulness practices that get them to think different thoughts and feel different emotions and notice how thinking different thoughts makes them feel differently. It's so fun. Yeah. I love that one.
And you can also just start with, like, in the classroom, put a timer on for a minute and ask your students to watch their thoughts. Might be a little hard with younger kids, but you can try.
Yeah. And then have a discussion after. What were you guys thinking of during this time? Very interesting to teach them to start paying attention to their thoughts.
Yeah.
So you can actually get a free trial to EduCalm Classroom by going to www.educalm.com and signing up for the free trial. The free trial never expires. You have access to it forever. It's not like a 14-day trial that ends. So you can use it for as long as you want. And then if you decide that you want access to everything in EduCalm Classroom, then you can join the community. We have an amazing community of teachers in there that are supporting each other, collaborating. It's just a great place to be.
So awesome. So the exit ticket for you is to sit down with your thoughts. Either put a timer on for a couple minutes or journal it out, but just start paying attention to those thoughts.
Good luck with your homework, and we will see you again next week in part 3 of our series on avoiding teacher burnout, where we're going to be talking about how to manage your emotions in the classroom.
It's going to be awesome.
See you next week.
Bye.
Worry, stress, and anxiety are a reality in today's schools. When students are distracted, their brains aren't ready for learning. Getting them to calm down and focus can feel impossible. Don't feel helpless, frustrated, or overwhelmed any longer. Get EduCalm Classroom, our online mindfulness program that's transforming classrooms and improving student wellness and learning. With EduCalm Classroom, students and teachers learn concrete strategies and common vocabulary to manage emotions and behaviors. They both leave the classroom better equipped to overcome life's challenges. In your EduCalm Classroom membership, you'll get a full year of ready-to-use audio, video, and printable mindfulness lessons for the classroom, plus access to a caring and supportive community of like-minded teachers. Try EduCalm Classroom for free by going to www.educalm.com. EduCalm is spelled EduCalme. Thrive in a calm learning atmosphere.